Isle, Lefty Prepper here. Now today we're going to be going through probably the most important aspect of survival, which should be at the top of everyone's list, except for sometimes shelter in certain given situations, and that's how to source clean, safe drinking water when you don't have access to it. Now there are two really important steps that you need to consider when it comes to getting clean drinking water. There's filtering, purification. Now these are the two steps that you need to complete if you're going to have safe drinking water. And even then, there are some caveats and there is still sometimes some risk. So today we're going to look at three different methods of making clean drinking water. So we found our source of water. Now there's a couple of things we want to check before using this water for the next stages of purification and filtration. The first thing we want to do is check up the river to make sure there's no dead things in it. You might even look at the water and think, well, you know, that's clean, you don't need to do that. But from experience, quite often you'll find dead things further up the river. So you want to check up a good, 300-400 metres up that way to make sure there's no dead things, because if there is, that could still make you poorly. The second thing we want to check is how fast flowing the water is. Now if it's still stagnant, that is probably less safe to get water from, whereas as we can see this water is relatively fast flowing. And the third thing, although this shouldn't be used by itself and certainly does not mean that it's safe to drink without any of the next stages, is how clean generally does it look? Are there live things in it? Are there tadpoles and newts, or the bigger of them, there's fish? What's it look like? Are animals drinking from it? All those things. So the first method we're going to use today is filtering and boiling for purification. So to do that, we'll need these items. So we'll need something to filter the water. In this case, we've got a millback bank. In the next method, I'll show you a different way of doing that. We need something to boil the water in, so ideally some sort of metal container is ideal. In this case, we've got a metal cup. And then we'll need some form of heat so that we can boil the water. So for this, I've got a gas stove. I would highly recommend that for any sort of wilderness adventures, because it saves the hassle of having to make any sort of fire. It's quick and easy. And of course we'll need a lighter as well to turn that on. Right, let's give it a go. For this method, you'll want the millback bag to filter through for a few minutes before you put your cup into it. So the main purpose of the filter is to try to get out the big particulates. So it won't make it clean drinking water, but what we'll do is take our big nuggets of dirt, feces, that sort of thing. So this has been running through for a couple of minutes. So just going to pop a cup underneath it. Okay, so I think our cup's nearly full. So the millback bank's still going through, but oh, there we go, it's starting to drip. There we go. As you can see, it's pretty clear, and you'd be maybe mistaken to think that it's good to drink, but it's not yet. So it's only taken out the big particulates. So now we need to go on go on to the second stage, which is to boil the water. Now, I advise, if possible, always have a lid to your container. Right, as you can see, it's at rolling boil now. Just had to swap the cup over because that was too small. I filled the cup up too much, so it was spilling on the flame and kept putting it out. But yeah, just need to leave it like that for a few minutes and then it'll be all good to drink. Right, so that will be good to drink after it's cooled down, so you don't burn your lip. Now you can kind of see actually, we've lost, although we did swap cups from the small one to the big one, we actually lost quite a lot of liquid there through steam. And one of the benefits of having something with the lid, although I messed it up, is that, you know, that steam will condensate and drip back down into the cup. So if you have a boiling vessel, try to get one with a cup with a lid. So pros and cons of the filtering with the Millbank bag and boiling. It is a really safe method, so it will, you know, destroy any bacteria and viruses in the water, and it will make it safe. Obviously, it doesn't do anything for chemicals, which in the UK certainly is quite important. Generally, maybe not somewhere like this up in Dartmoor, because there's less chemicals used up here, because it's a national park. However, certainly in lowland areas, like, there's lots of farming, in city areas where there's lots of crap everywhere, there's likely to be chemicals in it, and it's likely not to be good for you. So in a pinch, yes, if you really need it, this is a good method and tried and tested for centuries, and it will stop you being sick. And another sort of con, I guess, is that if you're using this method, you need something to boil the water with. If you're, you know, out in the wilderness and you don't have a gas stove like I've got, or some other way of heating water and boiling water, you know, you're going to struggle. You could make a fire, but anybody that's done making fire sort of in the wilderness, where they have to collect wood and, you know, find all the resources, it's not an easy task. Burns loads of calories, it'll make you sweat on a hot day, you know, so it can be really difficult, particularly if you haven't got a lighter or a ferro rod and you're having to use, you know, a bow drill, which you need to make first. So this method's great if you have the tools and resources to boil water and also have a metal cup or container to boil it in. Right, so that's filtering and boiling. Cheers. So for the second method, we're going to be doing chemical purification. So we're going to be filtering through some material, in this case a shemag, but it could be a t-shirt, something like that. We got some sterilisation tablets, so just beware if you're buying these. You can buy them all over the place, really easy to get, really cheap, get tons of them. Try to match it up with whatever size bottle you got, because in this case this is 1 tablet for 1 litre, makes it nice and easy. And then we need some sort of container to put the water in. So it doesn't have to be metal, it could be anything, plastic, carrier bag, condom, whatever, as long as you know how much water is in there, just about. Okay, let's do this one. So what you want to do to start with is to get your container and then put your material over it. Okay, then what you do is when you put it under water and raise it up, all the air should come out and the water should go into the bottle. And the same as the Millbank bag, that will filter out any large particulates in the water. Not as well as the Millbank bag, admittedly, but better than nothing. Okay, so let's give that a go. Right, so hopefully, as you can see, if we take this one off, pretty much filled up thing of water, a little bit less, and large particulates, there's none in there. And actually, if you look at this, you can see all the sort of large bits of debris that it's likely filtered out. Hang this up in the sun somewhere, dry out. Right, so now all we need to do is drop one of these in. So as I said, it's for this specific one, it's 1 tablet per litre. And the bits break off, but that's not a bad thing, 'cause it's not quite filled up. And what we do with those ones is you leave it in there for half an hour. You don't need to shake it, just leave it. In that case, I'll put the lid on so it doesn't spill, and then it should be safe to drink after that. Right, I'll come back in half hour and give it a try. Right, so that's been half an hour now for the chemical purification. And you won't be able to necessarily see this, but the tablet's dissolved now. You can smell the chlorine. But if you go to the taste, yeah, I mean, it's clean, it's safe to drink. You can taste the chemical in the water, in this case chlorine, I think. But in a pinch, if you need it, it works. Right, so it's that. Oh, it tastes like swimming pool. So the last method we're going to try is using a filter. Now this can get confusing, so in the other methods obviously it's important to filter first and then purify. So we've got used a millback bag, and then we used a Shimag as well. In terms of filters like this, so this one's a Sawyer Squeeze, but Life Straw's the same, and you get lots of different versions. This is all you need, so it's called a filter, however this is filters, and because it's such a fine filter, it also purifies the water. However, that's not absolute, so it'll get rid of obviously all sort of large particulates, get rid of all bacterias. This one doesn't get rid of chemicals, and it won't get rid of viruses. Some filters do, and the ones you want to look out for that, and I would recommend if you live in a sort of urban environment particularly, is ones which have carbon filters. However, this is one of my favourites when I'm hiking on Dartmoor. It does up to 100,000 gallons as long as you maintain it correctly. So I'll show you how to use that one now. Nice and easy, this one, and it's the one I'd recommend to anybody for their bug out bag, because it is just so easy. So all you need to do is, after you've filled up this bag, I think there's a litre in this bag, you take that one off. So this bit's the filter, screw it on top. Now you can either drink it straight from the top, that is fine. You can also have this one here, squeeze it like that, and that will filter it. Again, nice and straightforward. Or you can also, if you find a way to hang it up, hang it like that, it'll come out as well, so you can just leave it to one side. It's nice, safe, although it doesn't filter chemicals or viruses, but generally safe drinking water. Doesn't get rid of the taste sometimes though, so beware of that, it might taste a bit funny still. So, pros and cons of a water filter like this. As I said, there aren't too many cons, to be honest with you. They're small, they're portable, certainly of the Sawyer Squeeze, which is one of my favourites. I mean, although it comes with the bag, it'll fit on any sort of water bottle, so if you find a milk jug lying around, or a milk bottle, you can use that, or whatever. And you can also drink it straight out of the puddle as well. But any of these ones, the only thing I would advise is to go with a reputable brand, so Life Straw's one, Sawyer's one, There's others as well, Water to Go I think. And you get different versions of it as well, so you can get some of these in water bottles already, so you just fill up the bottle and drink through the lid, and you're good. I like this one because it's a bit more versatile, you use it different ways. Yeah, and I said the only real downside of this specific one is that it doesn't filter viruses or chemicals. You can get versions that will do that with carbon filters. So generally, no downsides. If you're gonna, it's more expensive than the other methods, maybe. So this is about 36 quid, I think, 38 quid. So more expensive than the chemical filtration, but it's worth it. 100,000 gallons, you know, don't need to worry about it. So, in my view, probably an essential in all survival or dugout bags. It's a must. So yeah.